Divine Parables, translated by Living Telepathy. Dictated by Father Jehovah, how movement in matter took place. How the first vegetation emerged. First vegetal geometry. Number 3. And God said, let there be expansion amongst the waters, and let the waters separate from the waters. Wants to say that the molecules of the waters had a growth or expansion. Each molecule has a free will, and they are independent one of other them, and they were conductors of their own form at the same time. They all form covenants. The Ark of Covenants is their celestial symbol. The entire nature is represented in the Ark of Covenants. The term ark means assembled in geometry, and it is the most representative of matter in the kingdom of heavens. They exist infinite ways of expressing the Father's creation, does not count any limit, for the Father a molecule is a universe. He sees what nobody sees, because he is where nobody is. The first waters were not like the present ones, they were rather liquid gases, which contained multitudes of gaseous beings, never seen by human eyes. These gaseous beings had powers of fire, for in that amazing epoch, everything boiled, everything turned into heat. That heat is now reduced to the central fire of the planet. And all of you were also saturated with heat. Does your body not have calorie or temperature? Many will wonder why. For man had not been born yet. The truth is that while this was taking place, from the same heat and in an invisible form, the first creatures of flesh were being born. It was the first birth, the first reincarnation. This divine process continues taking place in the own cosmic elements. Matter's free will makes nobody notice its own process. The term, and let the waters separate from the waters, has an eternal meaning. The best way of showing a free will is with a movement of waters. One never knows what determination there will be in its own movements. The free will is so fine and delicate in its composition that only the Creator touches it, and he never does it without a reason, for it is his own creation. He wanted to say at the same time, free will, you are free. For your Creator, when he creates worlds, he does it by talking to the elements. And all of this takes place within a joy that is unknown to ye, a joy characteristic of the psychology of the children of your planet. The favorite psychology of the Father, as one who does not create and expand his own joyfulness, does not enter the kingdom of heavens, never have the apathetic spirit centered, to enjoy the joy there, or that to cultivate it first. Just then you can claim for joy in the kingdom of heavens, if you did not cultivate it on earth. What right does assist ye to claim for it in the heavens? Yes, little son, the waters were gases of fire. There was separation between the individualities of the molecules of the waters, for they have free will. The molecules are also born again, they reincarnate again, which is the same law. The universe is expansive due to the own determinations of matter and spirit. Everything is living in its own laws. The human spirits do not understand this, for they requested it so, and so it was conceded to them. They have oblivion of themselves and of the matter that surrounds them. The oblivion of the past is part of a spirit's trials. The celestial mandate, it is in the matter and the spirit, is complete. The waters in their composition as gas had infinite metamorphosis. Each metamorphosis is a living existence. Just as the human existence is only a relative form of living philosophy, the new knowledge acquired by the spirit in each relative form gives it, in an immediate future, a new form of physical body. The physical forms are eternal in the eternity of the spirits. This is what means. Every spirit is born again, and in each existence the spirit knows new laws. What he did not know in a determined world, he knows it in another, and so on forever and ever, for there is everything in the Father's flock, and what is of the Father is infinite. So infinite as the grains of sand that are contained in a desert. The first waters were not like the present ones. They went through infinite colors, and each color covered a time that the terrestrial science shall never be able to calculate it. Let there be expansion amidst the waters, meant and still means that all the universe has a hierarchy, even the molecules and microbes of all the elements. Every expansion is a development of the own fruit. The waters have not finished that development yet. What happens in the interior of the molecules is something that nobody has known, but now it shall be known. The light of the knowledge in the Father explains everything. The demon of ignorance shall be crushed in this world, once more. It is only convenient for Satan that the creatures remain ignorant, so do the privileged classes of the materialistic world want. Woe betide those who because of them there are ignorant children. They are the demons who serve the demon. It was written that the humble are first. They should have had, therefore, the best of education. They should govern the world. If it was not so, it is because there were spirit demons who fell once more. For in remote worlds, these demons did the same thing. Millions and millions of my children in infinite worlds live in the most complete ignorance. Every horde or spirit of his world's knowledge requested a new opportunity, in a new form of life called human life. They requested it and it was granted to them, and they promised in the kingdom of heavens to mend the harm done in other existences. Morality and matter influence each other. That is why the Divine Father, by explaining the origin of things, mentions science and morality. The Father's morality created everything. There is no gesture or determination in which morality is not there. Each world and their laws that rule them have a morality. Each molecule and each cell have morality. If they did not have it, the Father's inheritance would not be the same in the children. Nobody is disinherited, neither matter nor spirit. In the initial expansion of the terrestrial matter, transformation followed, which still continues, and shall continue to the last breath of life of the planet. The gas of the waters was a product of transformation of the gas fire. Two magnetisms with different free wills, and which came out of the same cause. All the germs of the elements had fire as a beginning. One can say that every planet is a product of the remains of a bonfire. The ash is the earth, and water is the evaporation. Earth and water came out of the boiling of a little solar sparkle. Earth and water came out in a state of fire from the sun's alpha and omega. These suns still continue creating solar little sparkles. They still continue creating future planets, and they shall keep on doing it through all eternity. When the suns create, the flying saucers swarm around them, in such a quantity as the number of grains of sand contained in a desert. The silver ships have as a duty to guide the little sparkles of the future worlds through the space. That is why the flying saucers are in all the new revelation, and there is no creation in which they were not present. They are the alpha and omega of everything that exists and shall exist. Just as they participate in the birth of worlds, they also witness their development and agony. They witness everything that could happen on a living planet. That is why you have seen them. They do not go to the worlds out of a whim. They go because they have laws and obligations. Just as you have them, what is up above is the same as down below. It is always that way, and so it shall be. Everything costs in the creation. For the universe is a product of the divine merit and love of the Father. Merit and love are transmitted to the children, up above as well as down below. In all the beginnings of the worlds, one earns his bread on the sweat of his face. For the mandates of the Father are not limited to one world. Limit does not count on him. His celestial mandates cover infinite universes, whose number is like the number of grains of sand contained in a desert. The Father's creation is so immense that all what you do in every instant take place in other worlds, and they take place in an infinite degree, and their protagonists are other creatures. What is up above is the same as down below. The primitive gas of the earth was expanding in a geometrical and lineal form. Its initial calorie had the influence of the solar lines. The solar lines are magnetic lines which a sun's thought is formed of, and they were the product of the salt or the knowledge acquired by that sun. The characteristics of the matter earth come from the solar luminaries alpha and omega. It is a saturation of fire that started as a little spark. The development of this little spark occurred and still occurs, in the same form as a fruit ripens in your nature. In maturity is the beginning of movement. Nature moves because its development was movement. Waters move because their movement was and is in their cooling process. The cooling process of the waters is like the ripeness of a fruit. Movement, as you know it, manifests itself in infinite forms. It is also living. Its philosophy is to struggle against quietness. You are then in the presence of universes with movement, and that is not all. There are universes of quietness, where nothing moves. They are worlds that if you visited them, would make your hair stand on end. The silence in those worlds paralyzes one's heart, even more. There are worlds where hubbub is silence, and silence is hubbub. There is everything in the Father's creation. One just needs to think about it, and that thought has already been thought by another being, or it had been thought, and thus go back to your own gestures and thoughts, that all of them were constituting themselves into universes, way before the earth where you are was born. The universal identity certainly exists. Nobody is unique, neither because of his knowledge nor because of his creation. To believe of oneself as being unique is to go against the entire universe. That was Satan's error. He believed of himself as being more than the Father, and he can never catch up with him. That is why Satan is also included in the final judgment. The Satan that you know is unknown in the universe. In the macrocosm he would pass as a microbe and nothing else. The Earth's gas was also darkness. This divine explanation could easily fill humanity with dread, but, being experience an infinite part of perfection, it turns dread into a relative law, and all your thinking is relative in the respective present, becoming eternal in the expansion of the future. Darkness come from upper above, from heavens that do not exist anymore. What is microscopic like the earth comes from the colossal. The earth is the product of the affectionate conversation of the sons Alpha and Omega. Many of you ask yourselves, where did darkness come from? Darkness was requested by you the human spirits, and it was conceded to you to know them. Everything that happened to be felt, touched, and smelt by you was requested by you and it was conceded to you. All the psychology of your individualities was requested by you. The primitive gas of your planet was also a request. Do not forget that the Father's creation is living, and the rights that the spirits have matter also have them. Both are equal in their rights before the Creator. Were you not taught that God was infinite? That He can do anything? Undoubtedly, all those who proclaim that their Creator is infinite, and doubted in life of the existence of other beings, they shall not enter the kingdom of heavens, for their proclamation is just by mouth, and not by heart. They are the easy attitude hypocrites. The world is full of them. There is a little time left for the hypocrites' world. It is just enough 1 second or less of hypocrisy and one does not enter the kingdom of heavens. In all your thinking there should not be even a millionth of a second of violation in my law. You requested in the kingdom of heavens to fulfill the most elevated morality on earth, the only one morality with which one enters the kingdom, the morality taught by the commandments. You, human spirits, saw with your own eyes the living morality of the kingdom of heavens. Everything that you wanted for yourselves was seen by you. You saw the only one morality, the Queen of Heavens, the living Mother who is in everyone, for every virtue has also got a sex. Matter and spirit have got it. Nobody is disinherited in the Father's creation, and so it is that the primitive gas of your world also had a sex. This sex included variety, masculine and feminine. The origin of each sex was originated in the sons Alpha and Omega, and the creation of each sex was a beginning of fire. The living sons think, and by thinking they give off solar ideas. Each idea contains a sensibility different from another's. Just as your individualities are not the same among you, the sexes are feelings with their own morality. The spirit is also a feeling, but the spirit needed covenants of virtues to know the human life. Nobody comes to the worlds alone, for nobody is absolute. If one was so he would not be submitted to any judgment. The law of sex is an eternal law, by which every spirit defines itself. To scandalize with the sexes proper of the condemned spirits, all the human beings who have scandalized showing the body of flesh to the world must consider themselves condemned to go to immoral worlds. They shall not enter the kingdom of heavens. They requested it so and so was it conceded to them. Every trial includes risks in the free will. The beginning of every life was a spontaneous multiplication. You were microbes in a state of gases. That was the first reincarnation of your spirits. This beginning is unique for everyone, for the law is equal for everyone. The parable is a living mandate. One has to be little and humble to become great in the kingdom of heavens, a divine truth that all of you have fulfilled, and shall fulfill through all eternity. This law is fulfilled by the matter as well as by the spirit. Both have the same rights, and the starting point is the same for everyone. Within their own wishes and laws, matter and spirit are the same thing, but they have different free wills. Be sure that one microscopic molecule has a different individuality than the others. Just as you the human beings, that being humans you have different ways of being, in what is physical as well as spiritual. This inequality is from each one's living destiny. It is the product of an unequal advancement in the past existences. The free will is born free and it expands itself freely, being the spirit the rector of a multitude of living and thinking creatures. They are infinite and make one unit. They are microscopic trinities, manifested in infinite thinking virtues. The variety in thinking is born from there, the multiple facets of the individuality. being each facet an expression of a psychology different from one another. This variety is the quality in the idea, and there is no quality in the own being that has got a twin one. One can think many times about the same thing, and a different time is used in each time. A time in the most microscopic unit is not the same in the successive units, for even time has got a free will in its advancement as time. Time makes itself be felt in the spirit. It affects the ideas, for there is no idea that does not need time to expand itself. The most microscopic idea needs time, just as the planet needed it in order to grow and expand itself, and every transformation, as invisible as it may be, needs time. Time also matures, as any fruit matures. From this maturity movement is born, for there is no movement that does not have time, as there is no time that is not movement. Time and space are the same law, expressed in a different feeling. Time is like a weight, or a room. Space is like a fence whose limit is eternally looked for. They are inseparable when they are born again, and when they return to the kingdom of heavens, they make new determinations, new destinies. The only one point of departure of every universe is the kingdom of heavens. What happens in the infinite spaces shall just be known by humanity, for they requested it so in the kingdom, and so was it conceded to them. Every justice that comes out of the Father is the same up above as well as down below. It is the same for the dead and alive. Wherever the Spirit is, he finds justice, for it was written that God is everywhere, in what is known and what is unknown, as one is born again. Every spirit gets to know new forms of the Father. The concept God is revealed to him again. It is the only concept of the universe that is above all the concepts of the universe. It is linked to every living eternity, what has been born and what will be born. Everything that has been born is born again, for the improvement of every spirit consists in knowing new forms of life, and many times the spirits are born again in worlds where they were before. One existence is not enough to know it all. Nobody knows it all, only the Father who created life. Every life is a geometry. Your life started by being a vegetal geometry. You were everything that your eyes see. Your hierarchy was tempered on the sweat of your face. Your salt of life came out of the own elements of nature. This is what means. The everything above everything, matter and spirit make one law, the same thing, and everything comes out of the same law, and every law constitutes one thing. The universe that surrounds you has such a remote beginning as to state that it came out of nothing, for even nothing has a remote beginning. Being momentarily in the human life, your spirits cannot conceive the point of origin of creation. One has to be born again in order to see such a marvel, but all of you were given the opportunity of witnessing the beginning of things. This event took place when your spirits wandered in the seas of innocence. You saw the kingdom of heavens because every humble and microscopic is first before him. The innocences get in and out in the kingdom. It is more likely for a microbe to enter the kingdom than one who called himself big on some planet. All the elements that you got to know on remote planetary matters are there in a living state, even the most microscopic molecules that your eyes have ever seen. There the universal gathering takes place. There your loved ones are waiting for your return, when they deserve it. There the scorned ones are, those who you called domestic animals. They are the greatest in the kingdom of heavens. They are spirits like you, who requested the living philosophy of this or that animal, just as you requested the philosophy of terrestrial little monkeys. Nobody is less before the Father. Before his presence nobody is an animal. The term animal is proper from the world. It is not from the kingdom of heavens. The spirits that animate in the bodies of animals were humans on other planets, and they decided to try new philosophies in remote worlds, for every spirit is born again, and by being born again it accepts all the consequences of the new existence, and everybody promises not to despise anybody, for every scorn is returned in another existence, as well as every harm. Everything is paid in the same degree of the offense, nothing more nothing less. The law of justice is in the own action, it is simultaneous and instantaneous. The spirits who sin and violate my law do not need to enter the kingdom again. That would be a reward. These creatures go successively from world to world, and only when one has paid up to the last violation, he can enter the kingdom. To enter my dwelling one needs to be clean at heart, to have cultivated the joy of child during the entire life, without stopping from doing it a single instant, a single second of time. If you stopped being joyful for that time, you cannot enter the kingdom of heavens. All the human spirits promised and requested it so, whatever the trials and circumstances of life were, this was so, because you departed with the purpose of fulfilling my divine law, above everything else. And if it was not so, the fault falls on the own humanity, and not on the divine law. The men of the past generations committed the violations and you inherited them, for there is no violation without a cause. Your parents and your parents' parents were the ones who transmitted you error and violation. Put the blame on them. Why you shall not enter the kingdom of heavens. There is only a handful of parents who teach their children that above all things is the creator of life. It is just enough 1 second or less of mental abandonment towards the Father, and one does not enter the kingdom of heavens. What do you understand for above all things? This term was requested by you, and so was it conceded to you, and it covers even the most microscopic that your mind can imagine, for the creator of the microscopic is also in it. In this sole request mandate lies the entire humanity's condemnation of not entering the kingdom of heavens, disregarding the other violations. This revelation shall provoke in you the crying and gnashing of teeth, and how you shall curse the illusion of your lives, and their creators. You shall curse an entire world that gave you comfort at the highest price that one can conceive, and that price is the no entrance to the kingdom of the Father. How you shall curse the rectors of the world and their laws. Never shall this planet feel such a hate and despise as what you yourselves shall feel. The violation of my divine commandments was initiated in the damned pharaonic era. Everything started with the adoration to gold. The human ambition was started therein. The falseness of history, the great illusion, the exploitation of man by man was born therein. The one that still subsists, but its time is about to end, for the exploited ones shall govern the world. The so-called underdeveloped nations shall get united into one sole nation, becoming the greatest power that the world has ever seen, since its creation. Behold the complement of the divine parable, the humble and exploited shall be the first, every humble shall be extolled, and every big and powerful shall be despised. It is so and so shall it be to the consummation of the centuries. The great nations are there because of the exploitation of the small ones. They were trialed in their intentions. Their spirits which are millions and millions shall not receive the resurrection of the flesh. They will not be able to become children again in this existence. They requested it so if they fell into violation of the law, and they fell. One cannot live in comfort and abundance while another fellow being is dying of hunger. That is a living immorality. And no immoral being enters the kingdom of heavens. Every immorality is a tree that was not planted by the Father, and it shall be pulled out from its roots in the human evolution. Every tree produces its fruit. It gives an inheritance, and immorality creates in other minds, immoral lives. The creatures believe they were enjoying a right, but, I shall tell you, every right disappears from the very moment in which there is a violation to my commandments. Nobody comes to life with more rights than others, for all of you came out of the same Father, one sole God only, and all of you enjoy life equally. Only the Creator creates rights. Men were taught equality. My commandments make no distinctions, nor will they ever do so. They do not mandate to become rich, lest to exploit their fellow beings. They do not mandate to become rich, they teach to be humble. It is the only one condition to enter the kingdom. The rest is illusion. The earthly comfort is worthless in heavens. Less is a comfort which is a product of exploitation. One can become rich by means of work. That is another morality, but it is almost impossible to serve two masters, to two philosophies and say that one is serving only one. Either one serves God or one serves gold. You should not forget that everything is living in the universe, so is gold, and it has its domain as such. An illusion is its philosophy, reducing the spirit into believing in one sole present, nullifying it in the spiritual laws. That is why no rich has ever entered nor shall he enter the kingdom of heavens. Millions and millions of earthly beings who have lived on earth, still curse the creators of wealth, for because of them they cannot enter the kingdom. Likewise shall occur among the living beings. The Father's law is the same up above as well as down below. The commandments were given to the world so that men do not exploit each other. For every human spirit requested not to be exploited, nor to exploit others, but they requested to be exposed to it, to be exposed to the influence of the exploiters who were to emerge. They requested risks, for they did not know them from the terrestrial point of view. Nobody is born with knowledge. Everything must be learned. The sweat on one's face that corresponds to each one's spiritual effort is eternal. Only merit counts to the Father. Knowledge, what the spirit has learned, for the salt and the sweat of each life gives the spirit its future physical body. Behold the supreme cause of work. Behold the divine truth of the oldest mandate, thou shalt turn thy bread on the sweat of thy face. For the own effort starting from the microscopic second of time shall give you the new body of flesh. Behold the cause of every cause. Human causes come out of this divine cause. Each one's free will chooses the quality and the quality of its own cause. The thoughts of an existence as a whole are a living totality, which is weighed in the kingdom of heavens. It is weighed by the second of life lived, and even less than a second. Count your seconds of your existence, beginning from the age of 12. Calculate the number of seconds lived. Each second of life corresponds to one celestial point, and each point to one existence, and at the same time to one world. The total amount of celestial points is called divine addition of the spirit, for the corresponding consequences added to the action done on the planet. Each action that comes out of each mind reverberates in the kingdom of heavens. There is not a single action that is not registered in the kingdom. All that has happened and shall happen in the thinking expansive universe is there. Everything that has happened on each planet in space, of those that were, are, and will be, such is the living universe of Father Jehovah, Jehovah of the armies, the eternal Father of everything that exists and shall exist. The world earth shall know me in a new dimension of knowledge. A new doctrine shall cover the earth. A new celestial mandate hovers over the earth, and by extending itself, it shall be provoking in each creature the crying and gnashing of teeth, which were announced to them with centuries of anticipation, which everybody paid a little or no attention to. Even bitter shall be the surprise for the spirits who built their hopes up ungratefully. They promised but did not fulfill. They promised to adore and study the mandates of the Creator, who gave them life, above everything else. At last humanity shall know the infinite significance of such promise mandate. Nobody is born with knowledge. Everybody is born obeying, for knowledge is possession and it has a hierarchy. Responsibility is universal. Wherever the spirit goes, he shall find the same laws, manifested in infinite forms. Multiplicity is a form of the infinite. The human calculation is repeated in remote worlds, like the number of sands contained in a desert. Every act done by you in your existences constitutes universes. The repetition of the acts is one of the forms of the universal expansion. Nothing stops, even the unknown expands itself. Feelings become materialized, and matter becomes a feeling. Everything exists. Nothing is impossible for the Creator of life. Human life is not unique. As many spirits of limited knowledge believe, their beliefs exist in remote systems. The spirits should never insist in limited theories. Were you not taught that God is infinite? What do you understand for infinite? To limit the power of the Creator is to limit oneself. It is to close eternity for yourselves. It is to negate one's own entrance to the kingdom of heavens. One who denies the power of the Father denies his future existence. He is also denied in any point of the universe. Every created attitude on the planet reverberates wherever the spirit goes. All the living universe reads his mind, for he finds creatures belonging to all the evolutionary categories. Their number is like the number of sands contained in a desert. There the human spirit realizes that he is unknown, a living microbe that came out of a microscopic and unknown planet called Earth. There does the spirit realize the real meaning of the parable, from dust you are and to dust you shall return, which means, you are from the microscopic and to your dimension you return.